This is the Farm Monitor. For over 50 years, your source for agribusiness news and features from around the Southeast and across the country, focusing on one of the nation's top industries, agriculture. The Farm Monitor is produced by one of the largest general farm organizations, the Georgia Farm Bureau. Now here are your hosts, Ray DeLessio and Kenny Bergamy.
You know, we need to change that. Host just sounds too formal. Friends would be better. Now here are your friends, Ray and Kim.
Yeah, I like that. And it's fitting because we have another ag-friendly show. Coming up, of course, fruit and vegetable production heavily relies on the H2A guest worker program, but a recent wage increase will cost Georgia growers millions of dollars this year alone. We'll break down the bipartisan legislation aimed at reversing the increase through 2023. Also on the show, from honoring her grandfather's legacy to celebrating Georgia's ag community. Join us as we take a bite into the award-winning flavors of Barlow Foods, where founder Tiffani Neal's passion for mixing ingredients together has led to the grand prize winning peach cobbler syrup. And then later, this is all that remains of a once beloved Turner County landmark destroyed by Hurricane Michael. But soon, that brick pillar will once again be the foundation for a symbolic monument representing the Southern economy and agriculture. These stories and so much more start right now on the Farm Monitor.
Well, tough times indeed for farmers and producers with soaring inflation rates and other economic problems. Adding to their troubles, the Department of Labor's new H2A Wage Rule, something industry experts believe could spell trouble for Georgia's fruit and vegetable operations. Our John Holcomb reports on how this could affect our state's growers and potentially impact our country's food supply.
Here in the state of Georgia, our farmers and producers rely heavily on our country's guest worker program known as H2A. In fact, according to the U.S. Department of Labor, in 2021, Georgia utilized more than 30,000 guest workers, showcasing just how important the program and its workers are to our state's fruit and vegetable production in growing and harvesting high-quality produce.
In fruit and vegetable production in Georgia, we've got over 30 commodities, 30 different crops that we produce, all of which require a lot of intensive hand labor. When you see a Vidalia onion in the store, that onion has been touched and processed by hand multiple times. The same on other crops like cucumbers and zucchini and even peaches and apples. These don't lend themselves well to mechanization or automation, so we've got to have skilled labor out there in the fields that are helping to grow, pick, harvest, and pack these the fresh produce to get it on the local grocery store shelves in the quality that we're looking for.
However, the Department of Labor back late last year released a new wage rule for H2A workers that increased their wages by 14% here in Georgia, a mandate that Butt says producers couldn't have possibly budgeted for and will severely impact fruit and vegetable operations across the state.
We were hit with a 14% wage increase in Georgia. That was the second highest percentage increase in the country. But that took that wage from $11.99 per hour to $13.67 per hour. And it essentially becomes kind of the de facto minimum wage for ag work in that area. No one can plan and budget for a 14% increase year over year. And that far exceeded anything we saw for cost of living adjustments for, let's say, Social Security recipients or consumer price index. It was almost twice that. So saddling Georgia's growers with that increase is going to cost them over $120 million just this year alone, given the number of H2A workers that we have in the state of Georgia.
Butt says the wage increase comes at a time when producers across the country are already struggling and believes it will just cause even more of our state's fruit and vegetable production to be sent outside of our nation's borders.
So that 14%, as you mentioned, comes on top of record high prices for inputs, everything that the farmer uses to produce and market that crop, from the diesel in his tractor to chemicals to packaging. We've seen huge increases over the last couple of years, and now we throw that 14% pay rate increase on top of that. In our estimation, the only recourse a grower has is to use fewer laborers. They're not going to be able to afford to bring as many workers as they have in the past. What does that mean? That's going to mean less production in Georgia. And ironically, as we continue to battle imports and cheap produce coming across our borders from Mexico and others, I think this will ultimately drive more production south of the border to foreign countries as in response to, the AWARE is supposed to be there to protect the wages of domestic workers. We don't have those domestic workers. So in an effort to protect a worker that doesn't exist, we may end up sending more of the production of our food to foreign countries.
The new rule went into effect at the end of March. However, there's currently bipartisan legislation being led by Senators Ossoff and Tillis that would reverse the wage increase through the end of 2023, a measure Butts says is a step in the right direction. Reporting for the Farm Monitor, I'm John Holcomb.
Meantime, over 120 food and beverage products highlighted the menu at this year's Flavor of Georgia contest. But when it was all said and done, a Georgia breakfast item was handed the grand prize. Dana Jones shares the story behind the award-winning peach cobbler syrup from Barlow Foods.
It's been said that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. And you'll get no argument from Tiffani Neal, founder of Barlow Foods and the 2023 Flavor of Georgia Grand Prize winner. It's an honor that provides affirmation to all of her hard work.
I'm still surprised. I can't believe that we won. But it's just like a great, reminder that we are headed in the right direction. It's just great to see that your products are enjoyed and appreciated, and especially on that level, right? So we love our customers. We love their feedback. But to get it from UGA and to be recognized in the state is just totally amazing. So really excited.
While starting a business had been the plan for quite some time, deciding on what type came about organically 3 years ago.
I love mixing and matching ingredients and putting things together. So I'd always done that. Had a wild idea to get into the food industry. I wanted to create a product. Didn't know what that was going to be. So I made breakfast one day. A friend of mine loved the pancakes, and for some reason it just clicked. I got obsessed with the idea.
That was the case for deciding on the name of the company as well, which is an ode to someone that had a big impact on her life.
I was at my desk working late night, and literally a picture of my grandfather was on my desk. And I have photos around, but it just kind of spoke to me for whatever reason. And that's the photo that we have on the back of our packaging, on the back of our cards. And it's just him on a tractor, on a farm. That's what he did.
While they might be best known for the pancake mix, it was actually a product that was an afterthought that brought home the grand prize, peach cobbler syrup.
So I was sampling the pancake mix, often once we were just starting out. And I was like, well, what are people going to eat the pancakes with, right? So I had some peaches. I looked to the side, peaches were there. I'm like, let's just whip up some, syrup with this. I think I did that with like the peaches and sweet potatoes initially. And then people would ask more about the syrup.
And in order to highlight all the fresh, locally grown fruit from within the state, products constantly change with this season.
So now we're looking forward to spring and summer, where we'll get to put out our berry syrups, which are super fun, flavorful. You can do so many different things with them. So it's like strawberry and blueberry season. So those get to come out. We are always looking at different things, like what things are, like what say Georgia, what say the South, what say the Southeast region. How can we incorporate that into what we do on a seasonal basis? Just to be in Georgia where we have locally grown peaches, right, where there is such a huge, strong agriculture community, it's just so great, right? Because when we win, it's like the people that we source our peaches from, right? The other producers that we use locally, it's like a win for everyone.
Reporting from DeKalb County, I'm Damon Jones for the Farm Monitor.
Damon, thank you so much. Now up next, the new monument that will honor the legacy of its predecessor, as well as the importance of the peanut industry in Turner County.
In the heart of Ashburn, Georgia, there once stood a monument. A monument that paid homage to Georgia's peanut industry and the people who grow them. A beloved landmark for locals and for thousands who drove past it each day on the interstate, traveling to and from their destinations. Dedicated in 1975, the giant peanut stood the test of time and withered many storms. However, one storm it could not stand up to, Hurricane Michael.
It was heartbreaking. The peanut represents Turner County. Everybody might not know where Ashburn is, but they know where that peanut is, and they have for the past, 40 odd years. And so seeing it laying there, it was pretty bad. But you know what? There was so much going on at that time. We had a lot of people who lost their homes. A lot of our infrastructure was messed up. We were without power for a few weeks. So, you know, to be honest, the peanut was definitely a concern, but making sure our people were taken care of was really the most important part.
It was mainly just a landmark. You know, we'd go to Tifton or we'd come through Ashburn, something like that, we'd see it and never really thought a whole lot about it, but it ended up being something pretty big. You know, you get used to seeing it like that and then it's not there, so it's a part missing.
Amazing, isn't it? How something made of steel and fiberglass meant so much to so many. Since its demise, the people of Turner County and surrounding areas have been yearning for the peanut's restoration. And now their hopes, and in some cases, even prayers, have finally been answered.
The Turner County Young Farmers had begun an effort before the hurricane to raise some funds to restore it because it was in need of restoration. There was about, I want to say $6,000 already in the cookie jar there for the restoration.
Turns out that cookie jar was a little small. Other contributions came pouring in from organizations like the Turner County Arts Council, Ag Georgia Farm Credit, the Georgia Peanut Commission, and the Department of Ag, just to name a few. In total, those cookies, that dough, so to speak, totaled well over $85,000. Next step, assign someone the task of building the new peanut. We'll look no further than Rebecca, Georgia, exactly 13 miles from where the old peanut once stood. It's here in this metal building where Cole Surser, Jake Rice, and Justin Dallas are currently fabricating their masterpiece. A newer, much improved peanut that Cole Surser calls an honor to be in charge of.
There's a bunch of people that it means more to them than you would know. So, and some of the boys from the county, they just contacted me one day, said, hey, you know it's down. It looks like you're gonna be the lucky one to get to fix it. Well, we're usually the ones that do stuff that nobody else wants to do or something that they're not capable of. And we try not to be scared of anything, so we'll try to tackle it.
So what was the conversation like about you're in charge of this? Was it any specifications that you had to follow, or how'd that conversation go?
No, they just kind of said, look it over and see what you think, and let's either fix what we can, or if it's no good, let's build all of it.
Mm-hmm. So what was decided?
We built everything, from the crown to the pole to the peanut. You know, you see a bunch of monuments and stuff like that where, you know, they kind of turn somebody loose, and that's pretty much what they did with us on this. We want, like I said, we wanted to keep it as correct as we could, so we couldn't go too crazy, but it was fun.
You know, the point of the peanut is that it also represents agriculture, and it represents farming, and it represents the economy here in the South. You know, we really, especially Turner County, everything is agriculture adjacent. Everything is touched by the peanut industry. You know, you'd be hard pressed to find someone who works in Turner County that doesn't have something tangent, you know, doesn't have a family member or whatever that doesn't work in the peanut industry.
It'll be welded completely, sealed up, airtight. So good paint, it'll last longer than fiberglass on that. So we're hoping to, if it'll go 50 more years, we ain't gonna have to worry about it no more.
Well, still no word on when exactly the new peanut will be installed or dedicated. All Cole would say is soon, very soon. Well, don't forget, if you missed any part of this story or others on today's program, you can still see them in their entirety at our YouTube channel, The Farm Monitor. Once there, you'll find everything from instructional videos to research, as well as some incredibly touching human interest stories, and best of all, the archive dates all the way back to 2009.
Up next, discover the secrets behind Piney Wood Farm's impressive composting methods and how they create nutrient-rich soil to grow over 10,000 pounds of food for charity.
Welcome to Ag Lab. Today's question, what is the nitrogen cycle? Nitrogen is all around us. In fact, around 80% of our Earth's atmosphere is comprised of nitrogen. The other 20% is oxygen. Nitrogen is also used by our plants as nutrients for growing. We wouldn't have any food without nitrogen. This all plays into the nitrogen cycle, which is a biogeochemical process through which nitrogen moves from our atmosphere to our soils, to organisms, and then back into the atmosphere. The nitrogen in the atmosphere, nitrogen gas, cannot be used by most organisms. However, it can be converted into plant-usable forms by certain bacteria, legume plants, or through industrial fertilizer production. This fixed nitrogen can then be absorbed by plants and later by the animals who eat these plants to grow and thrive. Soil organisms and plants use it in their bodies just as we do. When these organisms die, nitrogen is released back into the soil, providing an opportunity for other plants and microorganisms to use it. Other soil bacteria feed on nitrogen, gaining energy by converting ammonium to nitrate, the same way we gain energy from eating carbs. And a wide variety of soil bacteria can use nitrate in place of oxygen when oxygen isn't available, converting the nitrate to nitrogen gas, which is released back into the atmosphere, completing the nitrogen cycle. Nitrogen is so important to agriculture that many farmers use nitrogen-rich fertilizer or plant legumes to spur growth in their crops. However, these fertilizers can cause damage to the environment in two ways. First, if too much fertilizer is applied in ways that don't allow plants to use the nitrogen in the fertilizers, the extra can easily move into the runoff water leaving the farm. This can lead to contaminated drinking water supplies, polluted rivers, and harmful algae blooms. Second, not all of the nitrogen released back into the atmosphere is converted back to nitrogen gas. Some is converted to nitrous oxide, a powerful greenhouse gas that traps heat and lingers in our atmosphere for a long time. So how is ARS helping to preserve the nitrogen cycle by reducing fertilizer use? In Salinas, California, researchers are teaching farmers how to use cover crops to protect the groundwater during the winter months and then recycle the nitrogen from the cover crop into vegetables the following year. In Ames, Iowa, researchers are helping breeders identify plant species whose extended underground root systems are most effective at keeping nitrogen in the soil. And in Raleigh, North Carolina, researchers created a simple, rapid, and reliable test for determining nitrogen amounts in soil. You can do your part too. At home, you can recycle food and garden waste like leaves and grass clippings to make compost, and then use the compost to enrich the soil in your garden. If you buy fertilizer, read the instructions carefully to ensure it is applied at the right time and amount to reduce the chance of runoff and over-adding. Thank you for doing your part. For Ag Lab, I'm Kelly Harmon.
Finally this week, our next story is all about composting, from vermicompost to Johnson Sioux. Jennifer Parson takes us to Piney Woods Farm in LaGrange, where she got a first-hand look at their very active worm farm.
Welcome to Piney Woods Farm. My name is Jessica, and I'm the executive director here. We're going to talk about worms today and our worm reactor and all of our composting. So I hope that you enjoy your time here at the farm. Come on in. This is our continuous flow worm bin. It is about 5 feet by 10 feet large, and we will have thousands upon thousands of worms here. Yeah, if they're shiny, they're healthy. In here we have red wiggler worms. They're some of the best worms to create compost. We make sure that they stay moisturized, but not swampy wet. They like just the right temperature, just like we do. So this is our temperature gauge. We've learned in the wintertime when we have to wet it, we have to warm up our water. In the summertime, it's well water, so it's really cool.
If the water is too cool in the winter, the worms may not survive it.
But in the summertime, it gets super hot down here. So we will take all the hay off, we'll take the blankets off, we make sure we keep some really nice cool water to dampen them, and if it even gets really, really hot here in the south as it does in Georgia, we can take these boards off of the side of the barn so that more air can circulate through and keep it cooler. Look at him like looking at you. He's literally looking at you.
These busy worms can create about 200 to 300 pounds of vermicast a week. They use the vermicast from the worms along with these mushrooms that grow right here on the farm.
And that fungi.
Leaves, stems, and droppings from these fluffy friends to create nutrient-rich compost for their crops.
So these are the guys that are feeding the worms. These are our New Zealand white rabbits. You can't put hot manure like your dog or your cats or even cows or horses. I wouldn't put that on any of my worm bins. It falls down into our little bins. And each bin is the size of our vermicompost worm reactor. So we know that if we take the top of the manure off of this one, it'll fit on top of our worm reactor. We do a lot of different composting methods here at Piney Woods Farm. We do a Johnson-Su method. We also do a static pile, which is where they just sit for many, many years and break down. We do what's called a thermophilic pile, which is we let the compost get really hot, and that's a pretty quick process. That's just a couple of weeks. This, you just let the air flow through it and it gets really hot. So it becomes a thermophilic compost. And you wet it down, you make sure it stays really moist. It starts breaking down and the worms and the microorganisms start coming in and they start breaking all of this down and it will turn into beautiful compost. These will take about a year for the composting to go through its full cycle. So you know it's good compost when you can squeeze it and it holds and you're not squeezing out tons of water.
They create extracts and teas with bubblers.
These are our bubblers and brewers, and this is how we get our worm vermicompost and our compost out to the field. We will take the compost from the worm reactor and we'll take our compost from Johnson-Su or our static and thermophilic piles and we'll put them in these bags. We'll put about 15 to 30% of the compost in there and then this big piece of equipment gets tied on just like this around the bag and it goes into this huge bubbler that has big bubbles blowing up from the bottom so that it stays oxygenated. Because you're growing microorganisms and you want to keep them alive and they have to have oxygen. Extracts, we're actually blowing off microorganisms into the water and then we'll put them out into the fields on these big tanks that we spray on the field. Or we will grow pea bubblers. And so what that is you're adding a little bit of molasses and some other things and the microorganisms are actually growing other microorganisms. They start breeding, and when they do that, they create this sticky stuff. So you can spray it on the leaves and it actually sticks to it. And that can actually help us with pest prevention and disease. It'll create a barrier on the leaves to keep them healthier.
These composting methods help Piney Woods Farm grow about 10,000 pounds of food each year that they donate to local charities. In LaGrange, I'm Jennifer Parson reporting for the Farm Monitor.
Jennifer, thank you so much. Now, before you head out the door, a friendly reminder that for all the latest ag news regarding food, recipes, and what's happening out on Georgia farms, be sure you check out all of our social media platforms, including farm-monitor.com. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time right here on the Farm Monitor.
Stay safe and have a great week.